Okay, we're recording, and let me find Lisa Marie.
Okay.
There she is. Let's see. Oh, that's Arthur Taylor. Okay, she should be coming in.
Okay. Oh.
Looks like we're ready.
Okay, Lisa Marie, how are you?
Are you guys at citizen comments right now?
We just opened the meeting right at 5:30. So let me go ahead and I'll call the meeting to order. And Ms. Moreno, if you call the roll, please.
Yes, Commissioner Garcia.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Kelsey.
Here.
Commissioner Mayhew.
Here.
Commissioner Zambrano.
Here.
Commissioner Sparks.
Here.
Commissioner Taylor.
Here.
Chair Tomites.
Here. Okay. So we are at our roll call, and I'll go ahead and read item 1, citizens wishing to, I can't see it there.
Hold on, let me make it larger.
Or if you could read the citizen comment, Ms. Moreno, please.
Okay, persons wishing to participate during the citizen comment period portion of the meeting must email myself no later than 12 noon on the day of the meeting. A call-in number to join by phone or link will be provided for participation on a mobile device, laptop, or desktop computer. Comments shall have a time limit of 3 minutes each. Any threatening, defamatory, or other similar comments are prohibited by Chapter 2 of the San Marcos City Code.
Okay, and I know we have Ms. Copoletta signed up to speak. So when you are ready, Lisa Marie, please feel free to begin. Lisa, you're on mute.
I'm sorry, I do that in school.
That's all right.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Marie Copoletta. I live at 1322 Belvin, and the participation of this meeting is embarrassing. If people truly want single member districts and they can show their keisters up on Zoom and sit in the room like a third world nation like Ms. Moreno makes me do, and then write a speech that's well prepared and prepare it. If they don't know when the meetings are or who their elected official are, that's incumbent upon their irresponsive engagement as citizens. The fact that 2 of you are trying to ramrod through single member districts on the midnight hour is not only untransparent, but it's shameful. The fact that Ms. Garcia has never shown her face one time during this whole entire meetings process is shameful. This is akin to the Constitutional Convention in which all of you have been entrusted. And Ms. Garcia, I surmise, is being coached during these meetings because she's never had the cojones to show her face on camera. I don't think either one of you have any idea about what you're about to embark on, and you don't have any input from the citizens. Moreover, the impact that will have on our property taxes. Do you even know what this is going to have to go through the Justice Department? Do you even know how much it's going to cost to draw the lines? Do you even know how much play the kissing tree is going to have as far as the voter representation? And they're going to roll together Dunbar and Victory Gardens with other parts of town. Quite frankly, being Hispanic doesn't mean diddly do if you care about Hispanics, because we have a slumlord named Saul Gonzalez who sits on the city council, who I've rented from, and believe me, he is a slumlord. And then you had our wonderful former mayor who lived in Victory Gardens. He's white. Does that mean he doesn't care about Latinos because he's white, even though he lives in Victory Gardens? Hello, I'm the only one who ever shows up to these public hearings when it talks about gentrification. This skin is white, but you know what? I don't see anybody else showing up to defend the gentrification of those about to be flooded out in Victory Gardens and Dunbar. Not a dang tootin' one of you ever showed your heinies up to talk about your own race. This is not about race. This is about you about to tax. Do any of you live on fixed incomes? Esther? Do you live on a fixed income like some of these senior citizens do, and you're not going to be able to afford your property because somebody has it in their head, their noggin, that suddenly they think there's racism? We've had a very diverse city council in this community over a course of the 3-decade career that I've been involved. And it's shameful that at the midnight hour, you're trying to ramrod this in. Finally, do you even know how people would have to recuse themselves if their property is on an agenda item? Or do you even know if some wealthy cat from the kissing tree, like our city manager who thinks he's Mr. Big Shot, lives over there, can ramrod through whatever he wants because suddenly he's the alderman? I'm sorry, you guys are trying to implement a Patron system, which is exactly what we have on a school board. Drunken Juan Miguel. And by the way, Michael, you should be embarrassed you haven't been posting these recordings online, and I've had to file open records requests. And Tina, shame on you for making me sit out here. I'm gonna go over my time because I'm sick of being treated like trash by overpaid city workers. Thank you for your time, and God bless San Marcos.
Thank you, Ms. Copoletta. Okay, Tina, do we have anyone else?
No, we do not.
Okay, so I'm going to move us to item 1. Consider approval by motion of the April 12th, 2021 regular meeting minutes. These were sent to us in our packet, and I would ask for a motion to approve the minutes, please.
So moved.
We have a motion from Mr. Mayhew and a second from Mr. Sparks. Any discussion on the minutes? If not, Ms. Moreno, could you call the roll, please?
Yes, Commissioner Garcia,
She's on mute.
Commissioner Kelsey,
Esther?
Aye.
Commissioner Mayhew,
Aye.
Commissioner Sembrano,
Aye.
Commissioner Sparks,
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor,
Aye.
Chair Tomites,
Aye.
Commissioner Garcia.
Aye.
Okay, so that's, thank you, commissioners. Well, I want to just take 1 minute before we go into item 2. Welcome everybody back from the long break. I appreciate the full commission here this evening. As we talked about at our last meeting, we have a fairly lengthy discussion upcoming on single member districts, which would be item number 2. And then we have some very housekeeping issues on item number 3, which we'll outline as we get to that point. I did want to just say that if it's okay with the commissioners, that we kind of do our best to operate this evening under Robert's Rules of Order, or as close to that as we can, kind of giving ourselves up to 10 minutes per person for each conversation, because I know sometimes these types of discussions can go round and round, and people want to talk 3 or 4 times, and that's okay. I hope everybody has an opportunity. We want to get everybody's viewpoints in, but I'm going to ask us to try to stick as close to that 10-minute number per person per discussion for our items. And then finally, our final item this evening is to discuss and consider the final report, a draft of which was sent to us in our agenda, and you know, may have some changes in it, but hopefully everybody had a chance to look at that and hopefully found it to be representative of what we talked about, and also clear for the council to understand when they get it. And finally, I just want to say thank you for all of the hard work. I know this has been a lengthy process, but I'm real proud of the work that we've done. So I hope you all are as well. So with that, I'll go ahead and read item number 2 and take us into that item, which is review, discuss, and take action as appropriate on amending item B of section 301, number, selection, and term under Article 3 of the City Council. If you have your agenda in front of you, or if you have section 301 printed out, you'll see that section C does list each council member for places 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 shall hold office for a period of a certain number of years. If you could get that for us, Ms. Moreno.
Yes.
And yes, and so this, if you can you scroll up just a little bit so I can see people or scroll down, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Just a little bit.
Tell me when.
Go. Yeah, there we are. Item B. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so this was the item that we began our discussion on in our last meeting, and Mr. Zambrano and Ms. Garcia brought this to our attention. So if it's all right with the commission, I'll go ahead and turn the discussion over to them to kick it off, and then we'll all weigh in and make a decision. So Zach or Esther, either of you would like to go first?
I'll let Zach go first. Go ahead, Zach.
Okay, cool. Tina, sorry, I'm trying to get this on my screen. Tina, are you able to pull up the chart that I made and I
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, cool. So I think last meeting, Commissioner Kelsey and Commissioner Sparks weren't here, but I made the motion, well, encourage council, if you will, to explore single member districts, and then per Mr. Or Chair Tomides and Mr. Cosentino, essentially, obviously, we'd have to put that into some form of language. And so kind of what I did is I went and I don't know, Ms. Moreno, if you can make it bigger, but I went and I researched cities around us, neighboring cities, communities, and cities there at the bottom that I think are very similar to San Marcos in the sense that they're college towns, if you will, where we have a big university, which would be like Denton, Brenham, College Station, and Corpus. So kind of what I did, I just went through the charters and looked at what kind of form and composition and structures that they had. And here you'll see below us in New Braunfels, they have a single member district completely. So you have the mayor who's at large, and all 6 districts are single member districts. In Kyle and Buda, at this point, they have 3 at large and 3 single member districts. Obviously, you can kind of see, I don't want to go through each one and just kind of read it, as I'm sure you've already read it. But essentially what you see, and you can kind of get from this, is that majority of the cities around us, and as I did more digging and research and data into this subject, it is the most representative and equitable and most commonly used when it comes to municipal forms of government for a composition. So I obviously having to put this into the charter and having to amend it. I'm open to something other than a mayor at large and 2 other at large positions with 4 single member districts. I'm open to a 5-1-1, if you will. And we didn't get to have all the input from all the commissioners. And this is not something that obviously like we decide and then it obviously becomes like law, right? Ordinance, the charter. This is something that would go before city council and then would go before the voters, obviously, like our other recommendations, if any, to the charter. So I made this here and I'd like to make the motions purposes of discussion. And Tina, this is going to be a little lengthy, but I'd like to amend section 301B to read, and I don't know if you need to like put this up. I can read it out loud. It's quite lengthy. But the first bit of it will read 301B if you're looking at it. We'll read the mayor and 2 council members shall be elected from the city at large, while the other 4 council members are to be elected from 4 different districts labeled 1, 2, 3, and 4, which shall be drawn by ordinance and shall be nearly equal in population. And then to that effect, we have kind of I mean, there's a whole nother length. I should have typed it and sent it to you, Tina. Sorry, I didn't. I wrote it all out. I always write everything out. But After that, I have the boundaries of the districts shall be reexamined and redetermined by ordinance where appropriate following each succeeding federal decennial census or at other times where substantial variances in the number and makeup of the population of districts have occurred, taking into consideration annexations, disannexations, shifts in population, ethnic composition, and other criteria established by law. On any annexations, the city council shall designate the annexed area to be part of the districts to which it is contiguous. So I guess I could type it out real quick and send it to you, Tina, because I only have it written down. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that would be great, Zach. I don't know if we need it right now or eventually here for the minutes.
Okay,
Oh.
yeah, for sure.
Zach, why don't we do this? You've made a motion and, I've written down the highlights, but yeah, we probably do need to see all the words. So if there's a second, there could be further discussion while you're doing that or.
For sure.
Yeah, I'll second for purpose of discussion so we can continue.
Said we have a motion that was read by Mr. Sambrano. We have a second by Mr. Sparks for discussion purposes. It's up to the commission if you'd like to weigh in on just the language of the motion or do you want to see it first? That's fine. But if there's anybody has any comments on it, please raise your hand and let's begin that process. Anybody?
I'll start.
Mr. Spark. Oh, let's start with Mr. Sparks.
Oh, wait, I forgot there is a raise my hand feature on this one. Sorry
There
about
is. Yeah, that's all right.
I always forget-
the
I
real
always
hand
forget-
works too.
I always forget which system I'm in. Zach, I appreciate the research you did on that. That was really helpful. When you were kind of looking through some of these charter provisions, did you look into any of the language about how you handle transitions or anything like that? Or are you just kind of sticking with the overall, philosophical concept?
Yeah, so I did, and I don't think us being an appointed body, I didn't really want to take it too much upon ourselves to decide every single thing and as to how. I thought it was interesting how the city of Buda actually did it by flipping a coin to decide what 3 districts would be single member districts, how it would transition. So it was just like all by chance. It wasn't, I wrote out charts and stuff and like, okay, well, these, offices are going to be up next for election. So we can transition this starting in 2024. But what I essentially came down to after seeing so many different ways, I just kind of thought, well, why don't we just make this recommendation and then leave that up to the city council to discuss that and hash that out to see if that's even something they're interested in pursuing, right? Because obviously they're the next step in this. I personally would like it to be something by, okay, the next 2 council members that are up for re-election would then transition starting 2024, 2025, whatever the case may be. So it's not a sudden or kind of, random thing that just starts 2023 or whatever, it gives it a few years to take place and to plan. Obviously, there's a lot of logistics that goes into it, the drawing of the boundaries and things of that nature. So that's where I was at with it.
I guess kind of what I was asking was, because what you're kind of talking about is like, how do you actually pick who goes next sort of thing? Which I will tell you, that was a very entertaining council member or council meeting in Buda when they did that. It's looking at the pattern that needs to be established for the transition. So for example, it might be, since we're talking about, I think 3-year council term still, is that it would be, I would presume an at-large, and one of the district positions would be up in 2024, another at-large and district up in 2025, another one 2020, and the same kind of pattern in 2026. Is that kind of what you were like kind of thinking, and then thinking of basically a game of chance?
Yes.
I'm gonna use my own name here to actually create the pattern going forward. Is that kind of what you were describing?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
That's exactly what I was. I mean, if council took it upon themselves to think that flipping a coin would be best, I was going to leave that in there. I didn't want to get into fine details where it was just something that was going to have to be like a yes or no, right? I want council to weigh in, and obviously at the end of the day, it'll be taken before the voters. And I think, when I ran back in November, many people talked about this to me. I didn't think at the time that was an issue. And then when I did more research and I realized that so many communities around us have either completely single member districts or at large with some single member districts, I realized not only the history of the transition to this form and composition of government, but just thinking about it from a perspective of, when I ran, rather than focusing on everything, rather than listening to a specific and being held more accountable to certain constituents, right? And people of the district. And I talked to people not only on the ISD board, but even county commissioners who obviously are by district. And it's something that I think that is long overdue. I know it's something that's been talked about in this town for many years, and it's just never been done. And when I did even more research, I realized that it starts here at the Charter Review Commission. In Austin, it started in the Charter Review Commission. And so this is kind of where I was going with it. So I didn't want to set in stone how it would need to be transitioned. I wanted to leave that up to council just because I don't want to set that in stone and vote on it and then it kind of be up to us, if you will.
Cool, thanks. That's all from me, John.
Esther, I think you had your hand up. Can't see it, but I'll take it. You're
Yeah,
still
John,
gonna speak.
I'm like a Zach. I called the cities, surrounding. I called Seguin and I get all this information, and I didn't type it up, but I have it all written down. And I personally would like to see what New Braunfels has, the single member districts, the mayor, and then 6 districts. That's what I would like. That's my opinion. But I would be happy to start. At large and three single member districts. But this to me, this is our surrounding geographical areas, and we see that San Marcos, as Zach Zambrano says, it's long overdue. And we have the Kyle and Buda. I guess was Buda. Did that just happen last year? I didn't hear if that was just last year or year before when Buda went into single member district. But at large and 3 single member districts, are better than 0 single member districts. And I strongly, and the reason that being that it's just like the Victory Gardens, the street project, the streets are not fixed. They're still, digging over there. And they promised us when we went to that meeting, I think you were at that meeting, John. I think I saw you at that meeting, not last year, but the year before. Is it Arizona Street or the Senior Citizens Building? We were all there. It's just, I just feel that Victory Gardens does not have a seat at the table. There's no, they have no voice. And like I had mentioned at the last meeting, I'm just knocking on doors because I'm out there rushing people to vote, and that's how, they're showing me that, complaints and it's just like, I think May, who had said that you have 6 council members and in the mayor, but somehow they've overlooked the repairs, at the Victory Gardens. And like Roland Salcedo had said, it's an atrocity. Any other neighborhoods, the project would have already been completed. And I don't live there, but I sure will be their voice, when I have to speak up. when I get to, when they complain, to me, and I'm staying there, I have dust all going into my eyes, and it's just sad. I mean, and I reside at East Guadalupe neighborhood, and I myself have reached out, and text the mayor, and these baseball fields, they're neglected. They have the baseball, the fences are slanted, just, and I've complained to the mayor and by you through text, and I just feel that if we had a single member district in East Guadalupe neighborhood and Real Vista neighborhood, that maybe the mayor and the council members, would, if we had a voice at the table, we had someone, we just don't have that either in our where I live at. And it's like, no one's listening, and it's just, same thing with the parking, and it just seems like you just have a handful making the decisions and not reaching out to the people who live in these areas. And it's just not right. Same thing with Lotta's Carpet Service, that it's a legacy business, the Hispanic business. They're on Hopkins and, San Antonio Street. They were trying to put a roundabout there several years ago. And the only reason that I got involved was because Kathy Lotta, the owner, was here at Mom's house, and I walked in and she had a petition, not to put the roundabout there, and they were going to take her property, the corner of her property on Hopkins and San Antonio under eminent domain. They were just going to, hey, we're taking your property, we're putting a roundabout here, that's it. And I know she reached out to Daniel Guerrero. He was the mayor at that time, and that's when she got the petition going, and we were able to stop that roundabout, talking to groups of people and council. So, and it's just, John, you were there, and it's just like, we were there with protest signs, and t-shirts, no roundabouts. And, we had Wayne Beachak and Ryan Thomason. They were against the roundabout there, but it wasn't right. The council was trying to shove that roundabout down their throat, and that's wrong. That's their place of business, and you want to go over there and put a roundabout there without even asking what the people there, the residents, want. And then that's just not right. And I know these people. They're lifetime residents of San Marcos. They're business people, and they reached out to the mayor, and they weren't happy with what he said. So if we had single member district, when the city was trying to put their roundabout there, that council members say, wait a minute, Mr. Mayor, Miss Kimberly Porterfield, and wait, what are y'all guys doing? That's, but there's no representation for them either. And this is just roundabouts or, minor stuff, but, it's just involves a lot of choices that they're making for these residents. And they just, they don't have a voice at the table, and they don't have a one that they can go to. I was there, John, you were there, you and I talked. So, like I said, I would like to see single member districts like in New Braunfels, where they have, single member districts, but anything's better than nothing. But yeah, that's the trend. That's trending right now, single member district, and they can't all be wrong. And like Arthur Taylor said, there's gonna be resistance, and I get that, but I'm born and raised in San Marcos, and I remember getting up one day, and I was like in 6th grade, and my mom said we weren't going to go to school. I said, why? She goes, because we're boycotting. I said, what does boycotting mean? She goes, well, we're not going to go. We're pulling all y'all out of school, and for 3 days, we were sitting here at Raymond Lucy Park across the street where I live, and with all the Rose Brooks and everyone else was there and boycotting the school district, the American GI form. That's the same one that followed the single member districts. But, and so I learned this going along, and I mean, being around the American GI form, and it worked, the protest worked, and they began to hire Hispanic teachers from Texas State into our school district. And, through the voting process, we were able, well, the parents were able, to the superintendent was there. We were able to, his contract was not renewed, but it was through protesting, and it's just the right to speak, the right to assemble and the right to, to speak up. And it's just, we're lacking that in San Marcos. I mean, as a little girl, I used to go with my mother to Victory Gardens, she had the sample ballots, and I would go with her. And my dad told me, you have to go with your mom. And I was scared to go to Victory Gardens. I thought, oh my God, I said, I just hear there's, I don't know who lives there, but I heard, bad things about, I was a little girl, but I went and got up with my mom, and she went house to house to sample ballots, and all those people there, I found out that we knew them all, my mom and dad knew all those people at Victory Gardens. So, I mean, that Victory Gardens has a special place in my heart, because like I said, it was like 8 years old when we were going knocking on doors to, my mom was to get the vote out, and I was alongside with her. Now that's what I do. But we need the single member district. And I guess that's more or less, I don't want to take up the 10 minutes, but that's something that we need. And I know there's going to be resistance, but just because there's resistance, I think Arthur Taylor mentioned it, doesn't mean that we're not going to continue to fight for our single member districts, because we are. I mean, we need to find a voice for Victory Gardens and East Guadalupe and Barrio Pescal. All right,
Okay,
John.
Esther, thank you. You're right at just a little over 10 minutes. So thank you for that. I see Travis and Arthur have their hands up. I'm Paul. Travis and Arthur, I think were first, but I don't know who is first. So would any of you two like to go first? Travis or Arthur?
Arthur, you can go.
Thank you. Commissioner Sparks, I want to ask a couple of questions just for clarification. I'm not going to talk for 20 minutes here. When BUTA established the single member, do you recall whether or not, or what the response rate was from the citizens when they decided to do the single member district in that area?
No, I don't remember specifically the conversation on that. I know that when that particular charter amendment went forward, that it passed pretty overwhelmingly. I think it was something like in the neighborhood like 65%-ish. So it had strong support at the ballot box. And then subsequent to that, it seemed like voter turnout did seem to at least maintain where it was. I haven't looked to see if it increased or not, though.
So you think that by doing that in the city of Buda, it has been an effective process?
I think based on my experience in Buda's specific circumstances, I think it's been effective. Buda had some peculiar geographic issues they were dealing with that may not be present here, but I think it was an effective tool to resolve what they perceived as an emerging issue.
So when they did the I guess the division to come up with this districts, or the different wards or districts as they call it, how much time did it take them to craft and divide the districts up?
So that process to craft and divide the districts, that took, I believe, about a year to actually get there. They brought in a specialized or an attorney that specializes in that type of work. I'm going blank on the I can't remember the firm name off the top of my head though. I know Michael will know it for sure though. He probably does. But so they brought in a consultant that helped work through the initial defining of the districts, making sure they're geographically compact, racially equitable and appropriate, and all of those issues.
And what kind of can you share based on your knowledge, what kind of cost was involved in doing that?
That I do not remember. I could probably find out. I feel like it was somewhere in the neighborhood of like, I want to say like 70 or 80,000, but I'm not sure if that's right. I know it varies a little bit by the size of your city too, and how many districts you're slicing it,
Right.
and how close you are to a decennial census. That's one thing that was hard in Buda is we were, I think, 8 years removed from the decennial census. So you had to actually, and it was a high growth city. So you had to interpolate what had happened using building permit data and things like that. It was kind of a pain.
Right. So Zach, when you did the research, did you by comparison check maybe how the single member district worked in the other areas that you have on the screen here that you have listed here? Do you have any background on that as to how effective that process has been in those cities?
I mean, when it comes to effectiveness, generally, all the research and data that I looked up online said that voter participation increases in single member districts. Now, if you're talking particular cities like New Braunfels, Kyle, I can't speak to that like you're asking, but kind of in kind of regards to what Esther said, I think too, you know, when it comes to neighborhoods like Blanco Gardens that feel either underrepresented or they don't have a council member that truly represents their interests. When they've now had a construction project that has, Esther last meeting talked about how some of that construction project has put cracks in the walls and roofs of people's homes, right? And has dirtied some houses so much so that they've had to hire people to go out there and clean it. And some of those neighbors are elderly, and because there are people that, and all the council members, don't reside in that district or that area, I should say, the neighborhood, they don't feel like they had adequate representation or anyone truly prioritizing. And so I kind of think that and just like this instance and what Esther talked about last time would be a benefit to single member districts. And in the research and data, and historically after the 60s, many municipalities started to transition into these districts. And now we see the city of Buda did it. And now we see, I made this chart so that the commission could see majority of the cities around us here in Central Texas and cities of our nature with the college, that helps drive the economy and that's within its city, have at-large and single-member districts and not completely at-large.
Thank you, Zach. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Let's go to Mr. Kelsey. He had his hand up next.
Yeah, hold on here. Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'll make this brief. So I think this issue needs to be addressed somewhere outside of this particular commission. I think in terms of transparency, and we're going to hire a consultant, I think we need a lot more public input on this. I think that just us have this discussion, council is going to hear that this is something that is very important to this community, but I don't think throwing in the charter right now is the right thing. I think we need to encourage the mayor to get a blue ribbon, committee, somebody to get a lot more public input before we throw this in the city charter, because I think we need more input and more time to figure out exactly how we're going to do this, because this is not going to be easy. It's not going to be cheap. And I really don't think it's the purview of this commission to make that decision without more public input and more transparency. So I'm not for amending this particular item at this point. I think that we should encourage council to look into this as quickly as possible. I don't think right now is the time to put it in the city charter, because that, it is the constitution that runs the city. This is a very important document, and I'm not comfortable putting something in there without having more public input, because there was only one citizen comment today. So I think we need to get some other board or commission and encourage them to make it as fast as possible. But I can't support throwing this into the charter at this point.
Okay, thank you for that. Mr. Mayhew, you had your hand up. You'd like to make some comments?
Let me unmute there.
Sure, take your time.
Yes, so I agree wholeheartedly with Mr. Kelsey. I been sitting here trying to think, you know, why is there a need? And I guess that's part of my my thought pattern is, you know, why are we looking to change this? You know, who is not being represented? Is it a neighborhood? Is it a geographical area? I mean, a lot of our neighbors here on that list, their geography is such that, you know, yeah, it makes sense for single member districts. I don't know that we're there yet. Or perhaps, you know, is it a minority group that's that's not being represented? So I don't know that why. I mean, 7 people currently represent all of San Marcos, right? So every one of those places, if there's a neighborhood that's not, you know, we keep hearing about the construction. If that were going on in my neighborhood, I know there would be a whole lot of us up there at citizen comment period, making sure that our voices were being heard. And I think when you do that, people certainly respond. But, you know, when last week we looked around, I think Mr. Tomides went through each of the council members and we looked at where they lived. I mean, geographically, we probably have one of the most diverse councils, certainly in my memory. And overall, you know, I just think it's a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. I don't think we have the need to do that yet. Maybe we will in the future, or maybe the near future, but I don't think right now it's a solution that is needed. I do think that this is a very political issue. I think that being a political issue, it threatens to undermine if this were to pass and go forward, I think it possibly could undermine the good work and changes that we've worked hard and together to make to the charter. You know, if this is such an, you know, I don't know, I guess a winning issue, I would encourage anybody to go ahead and run on that issue in your next campaign, and we'll see where that goes. But you know, if it were a problem and we really needed to have single member districts, there is a whole lot more, like Mr. Kelsey said, that needs to be done. I mean, there's more time and effort, a lot of input from a lot of the citizens. And that's, you know, that's just necessary to even determine if it's something that we need. And then if we do need it, well, then all of the hard work about putting together the different districts, how they're drawn and all that other stuff before, I think before that even goes through. But, you know, last week we spent about 30 minutes on the issue. I think, you know, in light of the little bit of time that we've spent, I think it would be irresponsible and reckless to move this forward at this point. That being said, I have no problem putting this in the back of the, you know, in a tab at the back of our final report of, you know, interesting topics and things that the council should look at, which I think is what Mr. Zambrano originally was his intent was, you know what, I want them to look at, examine, explore single member districts. So I think there is a place we can put it that would probably get that that intent out there to the council without jeopardizing the stuff that we've already done. So, you know, I would rather look at putting that kind of information out there. And that way, like Mr. Kelsey said, you know, maybe the mayor puts a blue ribbon task force together and, you know, that could be examining much greater detail and with more laser-like focus than our commission right here in basically the 11th hour of our commission term. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayhew. And some of you have, a lot of you, Arthur, you've got your hand up and you've got about 5 minutes left or so, Arthur. So I'll let you, Zach, you've got some time. Travis, Chance, you all have got some time. So Arthur, if you want to jump in.
I just want to ask a couple of questions, Mr. Chairman. Is one, if this materialized, how would we factor in the university into a single member district process? And two, would something like this go to public hearing before any real action is taken?
Good questions. Who are you addressing that to? To Zach?
Directly to you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, to me. Well, you're asking the wrong guy. I don't know. I'll. Mr. Cosentino, did you want to weigh in before Zach does on that question?
I'd like to
about
hear
the university.
Yeah, of course, determining how the district boundaries would be drawn and all of that is largely driven, as Mr. Sparks said, by the most recent federal decennial census data that you have. So it's going to be a factor of drawing a compact district with equal representation and what have you. But I don't think any of us can predict right now how Texas State would be put into a district. But I'm certainly willing to yield the floor to Mr. Zambrano to see what his thoughts were on that. And I would suspect that before anything like this would ever be implemented, there would be public hearings, just because we would need that for transparency. But that's all I have at this point.
Thank you. Mr. Zambrano, did you want to weigh in on that question?
Yeah, kind of Commissioner Taylor to that, exactly what Mr. Cosentino said. It's nothing that is set in stone. And I don't know how city council would, take that process, but typically an outside commission, and it has to be drawn fairly and like my motion says, with nearly equal representation. Again, I was not trying to sit here and draw every district and say, this is how it needs to be. We're going to vote on it and this is it, right? I wanted to leave that to city council. And I think some people on the commission think that if this were passed, that it is what it is and community isn't going to have any input because there will be public hearings. This would be obviously something that many people in the community would get to weigh in on, not only at the city council meetings, but if council did pass this, it would go before the citizens in November or the following November to vote on, right? And that's ultimately where we decide at the ballot box as a community if this is something we want or do not want. In my adult life, it's never been something that's been brought up, but many people have talked about it. And kind of to that, when you talk to Texas State too, when I ran, so many people at Texas State, felt this vibe of people here don't want students here. And so I think to the fact that single member districts could be more representative of students as well, because when you have students in your districts and they're your constituents, these elected officials feel a sense of obligation to represent them in a legislative way, right? So if they're having issues with an apartment complex or any kind of issue that they may see fit on their part of town, that someone that may live off Hopkins isn't going to see off, North Ocarina or things like that, it's something that a representative would in fact not only take in, but in my opinion would bring up at city council as an issue that needs to be addressed, because being that they're a constituent and that's their district in which they live in that area, would be true to them. So that's kind of all I have to say on it, but it would definitely be taken to probably multiple public hearings. And then of course it would be taken before the voters of the community in November.
Okay, Mr. Kelsey, you have your hand up.
You're on mute, sir.
You're on mute, Travis.
Okay.
There you go.
So, and going back to like having this taken up in a different venue with other places. And while I can tell you, I've been on city boards and commissions for over 20 years now. You'll always hear from either the planning department or other people like, this is what goes on in another city. This is what it's like in another city. Well, we're not another city. We're San Marcos, and we're unique and completely different. And so you can't say what works for New Braunfels works for San Marcos. We're apples and oranges, right? So I really think if we're going to approach this, it needs to come from an outside source with a lot more research and everything else done on it, because we are not Kyle or Buda or College Station or Denton or, Key West. So that's my whole thing, is like, I'm not against this, but I want a lot more research done on it. So I'll take my time on it.
Which, Mr. Kelsey, that all takes place once council would decide to move forward with it. That's whenever the money is poured in to not only hire an outside firm to look into how exactly the districts would be drawn.
Mr. Zambrano, you're taking up my time, by the way.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So raise your hand if you want to speak. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Does anybody else with remaining time have any comments? Zach, I'm sure you do, and you're welcome to save it for the end if you'd like, but does anybody else have anything?
Hey, John, are you sure I used my 10 minutes?
You did.
Okay,
I am.
just want to make sure.
Yes. I got a couple of just basic comments and really a couple of questions. I guess I have a question for Zach, and respectfully, Zach, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I keep hearing that we need single member districts because there's a issue with the construction project that was supposed to take 2 years, and now it's in about 2 and a little bit more than 2.5 years. So I'm wondering, does single member districts, in fact, you don't even need to answer. I'm just going to say this, you can listen to me. The single member districts eliminate projects like that? I'm going to say no, because I've seen the same thing exactly happen in Rio Vista neighborhood when we completely rebuilt Rio Vista. It took longer than expected. I think the answer for projects like that is to not do that. That's what I've learned since I've been off the council, is don't rip up a whole neighborhood. It doesn't work. You're not going to get it done in 2 years. You're not going to get it done in time. So I'm almost out of time there. So to me, that's the answer. It's not a single member district issue because you have a construction project going over. And the other question that brings it to mind, and you and Esther have brought up Victory Gardens, and I'm a property owner in Victory Gardens. I lived there for 10 years personally. And to my knowledge, in the neighborhood commission, Victory Gardens is connected to Dunbar and the Heritage neighborhood. That's the district that was set up for the neighborhood commission. So I'm wondering that when these districts, and here's my big concern, is I have no idea what these districts would look like. I keep hearing they have to be compact and they have to be roughly the same size, but to my knowledge, they're not going to be written so that one of them's Hispanic and one of them's all white. They're going to be integrated districts, equally integrated, I would think.
You would expect it.
Or there would be likely some connection there, whether it be, they would be close and they would be geographically dense. But my point is, you're never going to get a district that's just Victory Gardens or just Victory Gardens and East Guadalupe. Those are two small neighborhoods in what is likely to be a much larger district.
Those are examples. Those are just examples. I mean, it was.
Hold on, Esther, I'm speaking, please. And one of the other issues that I'd like to bring up that I've heard several times is the issue about that this has come up Zach, you mentioned that this came up in your campaign when you were running for office. I believe it was in 2020. And I would like the commission, the Charter Review Commission, to know that for me, may not know this, but I was on 9 ballots. My name was on 9 different elections here in the city. One of the ways that probably the most time I ever spent in any of my campaigns was walking neighborhoods and knocking doors. That's what I did. And I'm going to be honest with you, this issue didn't even come up a handful of times that I can recall over 9 elections. Now, that was over 2 years ago, and so things may have changed. I'll grant you that. But this really, to my knowledge, just has not been on the tip of the spear, so to speak, for the public that I interacted with. And I would say that I felt as connected as anyone in the community to the politics of the community and to the policy discussions. So that's one thing I'm questioning. But for me, one of the real concerns I have is what are the districts? What would they be? How would they look? And I know that your motion and your intent of your motion is not to produce those in this commission, but I would have liked some notion from our elected city government that this was something that they were interested in. You know, they met twice to discuss the Charter Review Commission, twice this year, and they had all the time in the world to bring up single member districts, and none of them did. Not one. And so I'm not saying that we should only discuss things that the city council forwards our way, but Zach, I would like you to think about one question. Do you honestly believe that single member districts could be on the ballot in 2021? I heard you say that maybe it would be in a subsequent year, and I would agree that there is no way that with the limited meetings that this city council has in July, with the schedule of things that they're already dealing with coming out of a pandemic, trying to get people vaccinated, dealing with a distressed economy, dealing with a downtown that's challenged, that there's no way. I mean, I'm familiar with that process of scheduling, and I mean, I could be wrong. So I fully accept that, but I would be very surprised, let me put it that way, if there was any movement on this prior to the election in 2021. And frankly, I wouldn't want any movement on this prior to 2021's election, because as a citizen, I want to know what about those districts. I want to know where they are. I want to know who's drawing them. I want to know why they're being drawn. And I would suggest to every one of us that that's at least 4 or 5 public discussions. There is no way this city is going to allow something this big of a sea change in the way that we choose our elected officials without that significant public input. And I mean, we talk about other much less important things more than that. So I do consider that to be one of the concerns that I have. I'll reserve a little bit of my time. Arthur, I see you have your hand up, so if you want to jump in, feel free.
I just want to make one point, Mr. Chairman. Somehow or another, someone from City Council apparently discussed the issue, because I saw in press where the City Council was going to consider single member district. So how did it get there, and how was that agendized, or how did that get in their hands?
I mean, I'll defer to Mr. Cosentino. Is there an agenda item with that on there, or has there been to date?
Not that I'm aware of.
And
I saw that in the news. I think it was a highlight that was placed in print about a week ago. And I wasn't aware that this was even going to be on city council agenda.
Well, I think from what we just heard from Mr. Cosentino, it's not. At least at this point. Is that accurate, Mr. Cosentino?
Like I said, I'm not aware of this topic being on a future agenda.
Okay.
Then I'm kind of concerned about that because I'm trying to understand why would the press put something like that out unless someone shared that information with the press that the council would be considering that.
That's a good question.
Was it a credible news? I mean, was this?
I'm thinking it was Carter News. I'm just thinking off the top of my head, but it was in print, and I saw it several times, and it kind of caught me by surprise because I wasn't aware that it was agendized for that.
I think if I may,
Yes, go ahead,
Commissioner Taylor, I don't believe it was stated on that article that it was going to be on the agenda for the council. I believe it was to the extent that we were going to be discussing it here, actually at today's meeting.
Okay, thank you for the correction.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Some of y'all have some time remaining, so is there any further conversations?
Well, John, I want to say something. Just because I use my 10 minutes doesn't mean, that I feel like you're trying to silence me. I mean, everyone had their input. Okay, now it's the second round, so you shouldn't silence me by saying.
I'm not trying to silence you, Esther. You can make a comment. Please be brief. I'm trying to keep everybody to 10 minutes.
No,
everybody's going to play by those rules.
I just want to let you know how I feel because everyone. This nothing about single member district. Everyone had, you went around the table. Some people had 3 minutes left, 1 minute, whatever. Okay, so everyone went and they already said, and then, so now we should start all over again. I shouldn't be silenced at 10 minutes because everyone already spoke. So now you're still trying to, I feel like you're silencing me.
Esther, if you have a comment, go ahead and make it.
No, that's okay. That's how I feel, how you're treating me.
I will defer my remaining time to Esther.
Do you have a comment, Esther?
Okay.
You can have my retaining time, ma'am.
Okay.
The floor is yours, ma'am.
Okay, I'm not hearing anything from Esther. I'm not sure if she's on mute, but Zach, you want to use up some more of your time?
Ms.
You
Moreno,
don't have to. I'm just asking.
Ms. Moreno, were you able to pull up the typed out motion?
Okay, are you not seeing it?
Oh, it's just super small. I don't know if that's just my screen.
Okay, hold on. Oh, I don't know that I can make it any larger.
Yeah.
Which I'd like to still open the floor. I don't know if there's any other discussion that anyone would like to say. I think that we're a growing city, and this is somewhere that I'd like to call home for the rest of my life. It's been home for my entire life, for 4 generations. We're growing, right? We see Blanco Vista up north. That's now in the city. We see Trace down south. I think those 2 parts of town are going to experience different things. And if we don't have council members, and this is not, John, to the extent that I'm doing this because of an issue that happened in Victory Gardens. I think this amplifies as to why single member districts would be a good thing, right? When it comes to issues that are happening in specific parts of town. And when you have a representative that is held accountable to their constituents in that part of town, I think more effective change will come from that. And I think that's why so many communities, not only here in Central Texas, not only in the list that I gave you, but all across this nation after 1960s proceeded with this kind of composition of government.
Sure.
So again, you ran 9 times, you're on the ballot 9 times, or your name was on the ballot 9 times. When I ran, many people throughout the community, whether they were young, whether they were Texas State students, whether they were in parts of towns like Victory Gardens or in so many neighborhoods. They said that they felt that they didn't have anyone truly on council representing their wants and needs. And obviously I always encourage people like, hey, go out there and speak, which it takes time, it takes courage when people are working multiple jobs. They don't always have that time. They don't always have those resources. Not everyone has internet. And so I just feel that single member districts is something that is not only good right now, but it would be good in the future for a city that continues to grow. And we continue to grow and be one of the fastest growing cities in Texas and in the nation. And so that's why I feel like we should proceed with this. And again, to those commissioners that think that us passing this means that it's going to happen without any public hearings, without any public input, that it's not our place. Many single member district compositions, forms of government started here on charter reviews. In Austin, it started in the Charter Review Commission, made its way to council, made its way to public hearings, had public input, had citizens comment, and then made its way to the voters, right? And I not only trust our elected officials on council to proceed with this in a way that obviously they pay the money that goes into researching, okay, how are the districts drawn? What is that exactly going to look like? Because I don't have $40,000 to just cough up. And I think Commissioner Sparks, I think that's what I read for the city of Buda. It was around 40K. I could be wrong. It could be the 80, but I know I read 40K somewhere whenever they did that, because I'm not one to just throw away taxpayers' money. I don't like to do that. So I was like, okay, logistically, financially, how are we going to come up with this money and how much exactly is it, right? So I remember reading that somewhere. I don't know if that was the city of Buda's total number or if that was another city that I was looking into, but I know it was a city similar to ours because I did look into that. And so I just trust our elected officials to proceed with this in a way that they think is democratic and fair. And then I trust the voters of this community to take it up too.
Thank you, Zach. And please, just for clarification, please, if it came across that I was questioning what you had heard in your race from people that you communicated with, that was not my intention. I'm not. I hope you accept that. I really just wanted to clarify what I had heard personally. Or didn't hear about over the times that I ran. So I hope you accept that. And also, I'm being a little facetious about the issue with the construction project. I get it. I hate the construction project too. Trust me. It's miserable, but I just don't see single member districts as changing any of that. And there's always going to be construction projects and there's always going to be issues. So
John, can I ask you?
I'm not questioning I'm not saying you're saying that's why you're doing it. So I get that. Trust me. But I appreciate you bringing it up. Let's talk about your amendment. Is there any questions from the commissioners on the proposed amendment to the charter?
Yeah, can you have Zach read it out again?
Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, for sure. Just for the whole commission, is it small on everyone's screen or is it just mine?
I know it's on.
I can see it.
It's small.
It is small. Okay. I didn't know if there was a way to make it larger. But yes, so amending, my motion is to amend section 301B to read, the mayor and 2 council members shall be elected from the city at large, while the other 4 council members are to be elected from 4 different districts labeled 1, 2, 3, and 4, which shall be drawn by ordinance and shall be nearly equal in population. And then I just kind of go on to, for purposes of the charter and legality, the boundaries of the districts shall be examined, re-examined, and determined by ordinance where appropriate following each succeeding federal decennial census, or at any other times where substantial variances in the number and makeup of the population of districts have occurred, taking into consideration annexations, disannexations, shifts in populations, and other criteria established by law. On any annexations, the city council shall designate the annexed area to be part of the districts to which it is contiguous.
Okay, thank you for that. We did have that motion and a second by Ms. Garcia. Before we vote, I want to see if any commissioner has any final closing comments.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Taylor.
to Zach's point, I think that we need to, I would ask the commission to keep an open mind. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Mr. Taylor. Mr. Sparks?
I just want to make sure I understand what we have already done. At the prior meeting, we already provided direction that we thought that this deserved further study. Is that, am I recalling that correctly, John?
I think there was
Trying to
some
remember.
consensus that that was the case. I'm not sure that we officially directed by motion that we.
Okay.
Case.
All right, thanks. That was my only question.
And I'm not seeing anybody's hands up, but if you'd like to say something else, feel free. But I did want to just say this is something that we have discussed before in the past. It's been a while, and the last time we looked at it, we never got to the point where we brought in any outside help to draw the boundaries. It was just a very cursory discussion that occurred from our city attorney. We had him, it's not Mr. Cosentino, this was prior to Mr. Cosentino. We had our attorney at the time provide us some information. And while there was definitely some pros to single member districts, there were some cons also that came out in those discussions. Arthur, I want to thank you for bringing up the point of keeping an open mind, because I think it's important. It's not always easy, because here we are in a situation, just like council is going to be in a situation, if we forward this, they're going to have to say yes or no. They're going to have to say, yes, let's move forward. Let's put it on the ballot in 2021, which I think would be horrible. I think that's too fast. I think the turnout in 2021 in this election is going to be dismally low. It's an off year. So I could never support this going on a ballot in 2021. And we are here to provide charter review amendment proposals for 2021. So that's how I feel about what our work. We've done great work. We have put together a lean and mean package of common sense, non-political, non-judgmental proposals. I'm so proud of them. And we've done so in a way that is designed to make the community a better place, and different people can have opinions on whether this would or not, but everything that we've done to date, the 13 proposals, I'm hoping are immediately passed by the council with minimal or no changes and put to the people. There's nothing on there that really requires any changes, because the people will decide. But this is an important issue, and there's just no way it's going to be fully baked by August 1st. That's when they're going to have to call the election, August 1st, and they're off in July. So by policy, by design, to give them a break, they work year round and they need a little time to get away. So Zach, I liked your proposal in the beginning better the first time, which was to propose that the council dig into this further and take the necessary due diligence to do it. I would like to hear from my city council if this is what they want to do. I don't want them to do it if they're not serious about it, because they kick the can down the road. We spend 40, 50, 60 grand on attorneys, and then, it doesn't happen. And I don't want to see that either. So I'm not going to support the amendment that you're making, but I do support the city council taking the time to do this in the right manner with the right public input and do it in a serious way that if they're going to spend the money, so if we're going to get to public input, they have to spend money, that they're serious about making the change and how it would affect the community. I think that's the first step. So I don't think it's here at the charter review process, the election in 2021. That's my final say. Thank you for listening. I'll leave anyone else that would like to make a closing comment is feel free to do so.
Yeah, John, you mentioned
Yes,
earlier,
Esther, go ahead.
you mentioned earlier about, well, you stated about single member districts and about Victory Gardens and about street projects. And it's not like Zach and I were, those are examples. We're not saying that if we were already single member district, if there was a single member district in Victory Gardens, well, you know, in that geographical area, that it would impact the street project. Yeah, you're right. There's going to be construction always. I mean, anytime in different areas. But what I think with Zach and I, it's like, you know, you haven't walked in our shoes, nor in Zach Sombrano's shoes. So, and you said like in 9 years you were on the ballot, but just because you didn't receive, people didn't reach out to you, they don't feel like you were representing them, you know, that you actually represent them or you were our voice, doesn't mean that they didn't reach out, you know, to others, you know, like Zach Sombrano and myself. Because this has been an ongoing issue, an ongoing problem. The city council members, you know, they're just like you, like Mr. In other words, I guess just because they didn't complain to you or they weren't concerned about single member district or about not having their voice at the table at the city council, doesn't mean it was not happening, because it has been happening for some time. And I understand that maybe they didn't feel comfortable, you know, to have a dialogue with you, but it's been there. I'm a lifetime resident of San Marcos, 61 years old, and it's been there and it hasn't gone away. I mean, it's just, you know, when Rick Hernandez was here, he was the voice for the Victory Gardens. I would see him every Saturday morning. He was on Invasion Street because that was where his parents lived, but it's just not there anymore. I mean, and you say you don't, I guess you lived there for 13 or 10 years, right, John? But it's just, even though you lived there, doesn't mean these people felt comfortable coming up to you, John, to tell you, I mean, to, you know, to tell you their needs and their concerns, but that they've come up to me, they've come up to many others. I mean, Gloria Salazar from Centro, I mean, it's just everywhere. I mean, they just don't feel comfortable coming to you or to Mayor Jane Houston, whoever's up there, the council members, but yeah, it's happening. And I just want to throw that out there.
Okay.
I mean, not to be disrespectful to you, John, but sometimes they feel comfortable, you know, with others, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, I just what Taylor said, Arthur Taylor, you know what? We've all come from different paths, you know, walkways. So, you know, that's it is what it is. And at least it was in discussion and it's trending and it's, you know, it's just San Marcos might have resistance like Arthur Taylor says, but you know what? Just because we don't get it the first time around doesn't mean we're going to stop from not, you know, going forward with, you know, with the community. Thank you so much.
Of course. Anybody else have any final comments? Zach?
Yeah, and I'll just kind of say this to wrap up if no one else has comments. John, to kind of your worries, concerns, I don't think that this is not something that city council still can't explore to the extent that I feel like maybe you don't think can happen, right? There's going to be a lot of time, discussion, research that will have to go into it. And this is not something that I want rammed through, right? I want to make sure that there's public input. I feel confident enough in the community members that not only told me when I was running, but even till this day when the article came out that reached out to me. I had someone from the River Foundation that said, hey, you know, I wasn't on the meeting when y'all discussed it, but I watched it afterward. And this is something I've always thought that should happen in San Marcos. And I'm really proud that you've now come to the commission and brought this up. Because no one's talking about it. And it's something I've always believed that the community should pass. And so that kind of shocked me because I was like, right, I know LMC's always very active and props to LMC for being out here and making her voice heard because, you know, civic engagement is a very beautiful thing. And not everyone has the time, the energy, the headspace to be here and to make those comments. I know people that I asked to speak have literally working 2 jobs today, went from getting off at 5 to going into another job right after. And so I'm confident in where the community has put their trust in me, have asked me to represent them on this stance. And some community members may not, and that's okay, right? That's the beautiful aspect of democracy and where we're at. I think this commission is a beautiful mix up of many different people from many different backgrounds. And obviously we have different stances, which again is okay. But I just want to say that what we pass, whether this motion moves forward or not, is not set in stone. There still can be something else that comes from this, or it's not something that has to be voted on by the voters in 2021. It can be something prolonged, which I was thinking 2024, honestly, because I read how much research and time and energy goes into drawing the districts and the makeup of exactly how a single member district would look like. So like Mr. Taylor said, I think he said it very nicely, just keep an open mind. And I think as I've seen in many different cities, this is the first step. And I think it's a step in the right direction, not only for us now, but in the future. So I'd ask for your support on the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach. Anybody else?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Taylor.
I think it's important to point out that even my time on the Ethics Review Commission, we often use other cities as a point of reference in decision making. And I think it's real important that I understand that Travis made the point earlier that we're not those cities, but I think it's important that these things are used as a point of reference because they're good guiding tools for us to move forward with anything that we do. We don't have to do everything they do, but it certainly makes sense to use them as a point of reference. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Okay. Okay. Well, I think we're at that point. We've kind of beat this horse into the ground a bit. So we have a motion. I don't know if it's up on the screen or not, but that's the motion that we are voting on. Is there any way to get it? There you go. That's the motion we are voting on. And Ms. Moreno, you can call the roll.
Commissioner Garcia,
Yay.
Commissioner Kelsey,
No.
Commissioner Mayhew,
No.
Commissioner Sembrano,
Aye.
Commissioner Sparks,
No.
Commissioner Taylor,
Aye.
Chair Tomites.
No.
The motion fails.
Chair Tomites, can I make a follow-up motion?
Yes, please.
I'd like to make a motion that we, in submitting our report to the city council, that we request that they take appropriate actions to study a possible transition to single member districts, either in whole or in part, with appropriate levels of community engagement and appropriate professional expertise as deemed necessary to inform a future consideration of this item.
Second.
Okay, you're making that in the form of a motion.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any way we could see that motion in writing?
I was just winging that one.
Because we
Sorry.
made Zach do it. So, I mean, I would be very interested in that motion. And I'm also very interested on Mr. Zambrano's last comment of timing, where he mentioned the possibility of a 2024 election for this. So you could either read it again or write it. Chance.
Oh, I didn't write it, so let's see what I can, if I can
Oh,
recreate.
did you just rattle that off?
I
Did
just
you
rattled that
rattle
off.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
You know
That's
what I do
awesome.
for a living, right?
Yeah, right. I do. I should know better.
You
I
are
think
smart,
it's,
Mr.
I think it's
Sparks.
recorded, so.
Could you do your best to say it again? Let's start. I'll write this down.
Yes. If somebody's ready to describe this thing, so I'm making a motion to request with submission of the Charter Review Commission's report to City Council that they consider I'm trying to remember what I
Take
said now.
appropriate action.
To take
Take
appropriate actions to evaluate a transition to single member districts in whole or in part with appropriate public engagement and professional consulting services as needed. I don't like the word consulting in there, but oh well, it's there now. And for future consideration of a charter review process. And I'd be comfortable adding language to say it should be considered. Trying to think of Zach's language that he had about a 2024 sort of thing, like with a goal towards this being considered in time for a 2024 election.
Okay. So is that part of your motion too? To be
Yes.
considered for 2024? Okay.
Yes. I butchered the language, but yes.
No,
I was
I
second
wrote
the
it down.
motion.
So we had that motion and it's seconded, and it was restated. Mr. Kelsey, is your second still stand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, from what I heard you say was request for submission of with the report to City Council that appropriate actions to evaluate single member districts or in whole or in part, appropriate consulting services for future consideration of a charter review amendment to be considered in 2024. That's kind of the gist of what I
Yeah.
heard. Okay.
Sounds like you captured it.
Zach, do you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Sparks, for that. I think that's essentially what I tried to do the last meeting. And then I kind of took away from Chair Tomides and Mr. Cosentino. What I took away was that I could not recommend something like this. It had to be to the extent of like amending the charter.
Amendment, yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why
And
I went to
apologize.
this.
Yeah, no, I apologize for that if that was the case, Zach. It's you're right. That's what you said. That's what I said. And then here we are.
Right.
I kind of also got the sense that you really did want to, you did want us to forward that and take a vote, which we did. But anyway, I pardon me for interrupting, but
I'll
Do you
state
have
for
any-
the record, this is as inspired by Zach. So
Right.
I was looking at that too.
if I
We'll call it-
plagiarize that, I will own it.
Commissioner Sparks, it isn't about me. It's just.
We'll call this
Nothing to
Zach
do with
inspired.
Thank you
So
for
we
that.
have a motion and a second, which is a little different from the amendment that we considered, but are any comments? I would just weigh in. I like the idea. I really like the idea. I think it has really captured some of the concerns that, at least for me, of the timing and of the due diligence. And you've all heard me before say that high turnout elections are important to me, and the highest number of voters that we have, the better. weigh in on issues like this. So
That's a good point.
I'm happy about that. So anybody else have anything they want to add?
Yeah, I'll kind of just finish up where I was at. So yeah, this is kind of to the extent that I talked about last meeting, that I did not want it to take upon myself to have to make that motion that just failed, and kind of present to y'all this, hey, this is going to amend the charter this way. Whereas I would like to have just recommended to council, with exactly more eloquently stated by Commissioner Sparks, what he stated. So I'm completely fine with this, and I think it's a good motion, and I hope that council does the right thing with it. So.
Okay, thank you for that, Zach. And yeah, I think that there's ample, we produced and you'll see in the final report when we get to it, we produced the Charter Review Commission discussions or conversations, as well as the context of those conversations. And we tried to elaborate a little bit more on each and every one of the proposed actual amendments, and put additional language in that section. And I think that would be an excellent addition to that section. It's no less important than any of the rest of the report.
So Chair Tomides, is that
Yes.
where this motion would go? Because most of our motions deal with, the language of the charter in amending it. So is that what this motion will do then, is go into that tab?
Well, I mean, it's up to the commission. We could utilize that effort, or we could, create a standalone suggestion for, a standalone section. I'm fine with it either way. Just whatever the pleasure of the commission is. Or may I ask the maker of the motion, would you prefer to see it?
I feel like it's almost like a little step beyond here's the conversation we had, but also doesn't rise to the level of here, amend the charter in this way. So it might be appropriate to have this called out separately. It'll be a small section, but
yeah,
just where it's itemized.
That would be fine with me.
I agree.
Okay. Zach, I see you shaking your head, so I sense that that's okay with you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, if there's no further discussion on that amendment and second, I will go ahead and ask Ms. Moreno to call the roll.
Commissioner Garcia,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelsey,
Aye.
Commissioner Mayhew,
No.
Commissioner Sambrano,
Aye.
Commissioner Sparks,
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor,
Aye.
Chair Tomides.
Aye.
Motion
Okay.
passes.
Thank you for that. And okay. Thank you for that discussion, commissioners. Very important stuff. If we could take us back, Ms. Moreno, to the original agenda, please.
Yes.
Okay. And so we have, 1 second. No. There you go. We have, I'm trying, give me just a second. I'm trying to see it. There we go. We have item 3, and I'm going to read item 3, which is review, discuss, and take action as appropriate on amending item C of section 301, just on item B, determine when, well, it's the caption, this caption says to determine when term limits for mayor should go into effect and to determine the waiting period for running for mayor after 2 consecutive 4-year terms are served. I had a conversation with our attorney, Mr. Cosentino, prior to the meeting. It was pointed out that very likely in our previous discussions that, and you'll see this at the very last long sentence, it says the council member elected to the place of mayor at the regular election held in 2024 and at each regular election held thereafter for that position shall hold office for a period of 4 years and shall be eligible to serve 2 terms. So the answer to the question of that's in the agenda, we've kind of already covered. We've already had that discussion. We had a vote and we came to that decision. The question that remains are 2 minor questions, and that is above that where it says council members shall be eligible to serve 3 consecutive terms. We had that conversation and we came to that conclusion, but we didn't place a starting date for that. So as you see in the latter part of this section, we did for mayor, we said after 2024, beginning in 2024, when you run for mayor, there will be an election for mayor in 2024, no matter what, that's when consecutive term limits kick in. But we didn't clarify that with a date for the council term. So my proposal, or what I would suggest that we do, and I think we were in agreement in this conversation, is that we add, instead of at the end of the council member shall be eligible to serve 3 consecutive terms, period, it would say to serve 3 consecutive terms, comma, beginning in 2022.
Is that a motion, Mr. Chairman?
I guess, Mr. Cosentino, we need a motion for that.
Yes, Chair Tomides, you would need a motion.
Okay, so that's part of my motion, and then there is a second. Well, let's start with that because that's easy. So in other words, we're saying I need a second if there's a second.
I'll second that, sir.
Okay, we have Mr. Kelsey. Let me just follow up by saying, again, we clarified it for mayor. We didn't clarify it, and I think it would be unfair to the council because they're up there. Remember, they're going to be talking about this on an agenda with 35 other items. And I think to make it for clarification and transparency, we ought to have that beginning date in the 2022 election. That way, what that means is if you've served, no matter how long you've served prior to the 2022 election, that's when the limits on consecutive terms would begin. Is that clear for everybody? That makes sense? Okay. So is there any conversation or questions on that? Any discussion? Ms. Moreno?
So I'm going to add at the end of this second sentence, after 2022. Is that what the motion was?
Mr. Cosentino, was it comma beginning in 2022?
I believe that's how you stated it, Chair Tomides. Right, beginning at the election held in November for council members in November of 2022.
Yeah, that's what we need to say.
I'm sorry, say that again, Michael. Beginning?
Yes, beginning at the election for council members to be held in November of 2022.
Does that look right?
Yeah, it would just say council members to be held.
To
But-
be, okay.
Right, that
Does that look good?
seems to
Is that
capture.
clear? Okay.
I think it is.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. There's the language right there. To me, this is a cleanup item, just so we can be crystal clear. And if there's no further discussion, I'll ask Ms. Moreno to call the roll, please.
Commissioner Garcia?
Yay.
I'm sorry, which one was that? A?
She said yes. She said yes.
Sorry, Commissioner Kelsey,
Aye.
Commissioner Mayhew,
Aye.
Commissioner Zambrano,
Aye.
Commissioner Sparks,
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor,
Aye.
Chair Tomides.
Aye. Thank you, Commission. There's one other small change to that, and that was after we gave the section where it says after serving 3 consecutive terms, a council member shall not be eligible to run for any city council position for a period of 3 years. And we had a lengthy discussion. I think there was amendments for 2, then we went to 3, and that passed unanimously at our last meeting. But we didn't discuss was, what about the council member that runs for mayor? Because at times, and I speak from experience, you have council members decide, hey, I should be mayor and run for mayor. The question was, this says council member. Well, the mayor is a council member technically. So I felt like at our last meeting, the intent was that if you're just serving 3-year council terms, you get to serve 3 consecutive council terms. But if you resign to run, because remember, if you're serving as a council member and you want to run for mayor, you have to resign. And you may be in your last year of your term, but if you're resigning to file for the position of mayor, I felt like our conversation would not preclude that possibility. So I'm not sure how the language would read. Maybe it would just say, unless you're running for mayor, Mr. Cosentino, or other than the position of mayor.
Right, so in that sentence, where it reads right now, after serving 3 consecutive terms, a council member shall not be eligible to run for any city council position, comma, other than mayor, comma, for a period of 3 years.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, Mr. Kelsey, you got there first. So we have a motion and a second. And again, I'll just add that this, to me, this is where I thought we were at our last meeting when we had this conversation. But for clarity purposes, we thought we ought to, just be super clear. So I'm not sure it ever came out in the motions that were made in the last meeting. So is there any comments or questions on this additional words? Okay, I'm hearing none. So Ms. Moreno, would you please call the roll on other than mayor being added to that sentence?
Yes. Commissioner Garcia,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelsey,
Aye.
Commissioner Mayhew,
Aye.
Commissioner Sembrano,
Aye.
Commissioner Sparks,
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor,
Aye.
Chair Tomites.
Aye. Okay, and if Ms. Moreno, if you could bring up the agenda screen again, please.
Yes.
Okay. And then our final discussion item, council, is discuss and consider the final report to the Charter Review Commission. Just for understanding purposes, we, at our last meeting of the Charter Review Commission, we had a lengthy discussion. At the very end, we discussed that Vice Chair Mayhew and I, along with Ms. Moreno and Mr. Cosentino, would begin the process of assembling the final report as the staff does every year. Commissioner Mayhew and I met to discuss discuss parts of that, and I'm going to try to bring it up from Ms. Moreno's email to us, if you'll just bear with me a second so I could see it. But what I wanted to point out was that we had a cumulative section, which in the document that was sent to us is part of the letter, I believe. Yes. So there's a cover letter dated May 10th today. And then right past that, the second page past that is the executive summary city charter amendments for 2021. As I mentioned, there were 13, I believe. And our goal was to write these in a way that were extremely easy for not just council members that had to read this packet, but also 500 other pages, but also very simple for the public to read and understand exactly what this Charter Commission was proposing. So for instance, on section 1, or item 1, amending section 103, the statement of goals, we could have gone into adding every bit of all those goals in there, but the purpose statement is what we worked on, was to bring organization and structure to the statement of goals of the city government. And what we did was, if there was additional language, such as all the changes, they're both listed in the final report in the red line version. So council will see highlighted and underlined any proposed changes that we are making, as well as an additional tab that we put in, which outlines the council or the commissioners' discussions and the context of those discussions. So for each one of those sections that we are proposing to amend, there's a purpose, and then there's additional reading material for the city council behind that. And that was the goal. And I think we came up with a final report that's easy to summarize, very concise, and very clear to everybody involved what we intend to do. There is one additional section that we have to add based on tonight's meeting, and I would ask that that we add the language from Mr. Sparks, and we can perhaps put some of the discussion. Certainly, we'll put the vote, how that occurred, and try to summarize that as well in that additional tab for the final report. And with the commission's permission, the staff and the chair and vice chair can work on that together, if that's okay. So that's all I have to say about the process. I just want to let you know, of having read these before and having to vote on them, this is about the easiest one that I've seen. There's just nothing but meat on the bone on these, and we should be all very proud of what we're forwarding. Commissioner Kelsey, you've served on a number of these charter review commissions. Do you have any final comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I can tell you right now, this is one of the best ones I've ever served on, and kudos to all my fellow commissioners, because this is really good, clear, and concise. And in these difficult times, I think that City Council will appreciate having something presented to them that is easy and can be taken in very well. So great job, everybody. I mean, it's been a pleasure working with all of you.
Same. Appreciate that. Anybody else have any comments? Mr. Cosentino, you have your hand up, so why don't you?
Thank you, Chair Tomatis. I just wanted to point out, if we have the executive summary, if we could go to that tab. Okay, if we'll go to the scroll down to the second item. Yeah, we're there. So it currently reads that the term limits for the council members would be effective at the regular election in November of 2024. And by your vote earlier, a few moments ago, you decided that transition to the term limits for council members would be in the election of 2022. So I wanted to point that out.
Yeah, we'll need to clean that item up.
You need a motion or anything to clean this stuff up, or?
I don't
We
think
just
so,
clean it
because
up.
we made it up we made the motion and passed it. And I apologize. I probably put that 2024 because I was thinking about the mayor stuff was 2024. And so that probably slipped in. So I don't know. Do we need a motion for that, Mr. Cosentino, or can we just make that?
I just wanted to point that out, that I didn't
Yeah.
want there to be any inconsistency between the minutes
Right.
and the final report on that.
Well,
We'll
Mr.
make
Chair,
that change.
can I make a
Yeah, Mr.
comment?
Kelsey. Yes, sir.
So there will be a city council election in 2022, correct?
Yes.
Well, I think we should make it 2022. I thought that was your intention with that, because that kind of makes sense. That's
Yeah,
a council election.
is. No, you're right. It's 2022 for city council. It was just an error on my part when I put 2024 for amending section 301C. It should,
Can we just change it right now to November
Yeah.
2022?
yeah, we'll do that.
I have it noted.
2022, just like we just voted.
Yes.
Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Thank
And
you.
then, one,
Go ahead, Mr. Cosentino.
yeah, thank you. So the motion that was adopted earlier, made by Member Sparks, regarding the council studying transition to single member districts. The tab that you have right now, which is charter discussions and context, right now it goes into each of the 13 specific recommendations that you have. Was it your intent that the commentary regarding the study of single member districts would be its own tab, or included in that? Because it
was separate, its own tab.
Okay, its own tab. And just how would you like that to be worded, or comments regarding, does it need its own label?
Yeah, I mean, yes, just discussions regarding single member districts.
I don't know that I care that much.
Well,
Yeah, we'll work that out, but
We're
yeah, it'll
aware.
have its own tab and it'll say single member districts in the tab somehow.
yeah, I'm bringing it up because if it gets lumped in with the 13 others, the council may think that's a
No.
recommendation for,
Yeah.
for this time, and it's not, so.
Right, that's right. Ms. Moreno?
Which tab do you want? The very last tab or after discussions? And I don't know where you want that.
I'm not sure it matters, but it will, I think the commission was very clear that it will be a separate tab.
Yes.
It'll be clear and concise. It'll have the motion, the vote, and some other purposeful comments on there for, council will fully understand what we discussed.
Okay.
But it'll be separate and apart from the amendments and the discussions in the context on the actual amendments.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
And Chair, the city council could be taking up a presentation by this commission as soon as the May 18th regular meeting. The city clerk typically posts those agendas with all of the backup materials by Wednesday of the week prior. So if the intent is to have that go out in the packet, we're really talking about turning this around within 48 hours. So,
Yeah, I don't see any issue with that.
okay. So,
And commissioners, when we do finally get the agenda item, I hope that all of you can be available. Certainly not required, but it'd be nice. Usually when we do it in person, a number of us would go down together and make the presentation, or at least be there and be recognized. Well, I guess we're pretty much near the end. Is there any final comments or?
Hey, John,
Yes,
I just
sir.
wanted to say thank you to everybody on the commission. I appreciate all the hard work and due diligence that everybody gave. It was a really productive commission, and I am glad to have served with each and every one of you. John, I think you did a tremendous job of chairing this, and I now have to get on the road to Dallas. So
All right.
hope y'all have a good evening.
Well, hold on for the vote. Would you just a minute?
Okay.
All right. And thank you for that, Paul. And anybody else?
Mr. Chair, can I?
Yes, sir.
After we vote on this, last item, let's not forget questions and answers from the press and public.
Right. Sorry. Yes, we will have that. I apologize. Absolutely.
I have someone reminding me of that, so.
Okay. All right. Well, I again, just, yes, Zach, go ahead. I can't see you, but.
Yeah, just to reiterate Mr. Commissioner Mayhew's comments, I just appreciate working with all of you all. I think it's not only been a joy, but I think we've been a great commission. We come from all different aspects of life, and together we were a good group. So this has been my first commission to ever serve on, but it's been a pleasure. I'm gonna kind of miss meeting with y'all on Monday nights.
All right.
Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow, Zach.
I'll see you tomorrow with them. It's a longer agenda.
But tomorrow's gonna be easy.
Yeah. But yeah, I just thank you all. Thank you, Chair, Mr. Cosentino, Tina, for taking the time, everyone, LMC for always coming out and making your voice heard. Thank you all.
Yeah, I thank you for mentioning Tina Moreno and Michael Cosentino have done an excellent job and served us very well and in supporting us and helping us get these agendas turned around quickly. And thank you guys for that. And Lisa Marie, thank you for all your comments. I think you only missed one meeting maybe. And we all appreciate that. And but really, guys, I've been on a lot of boards and commissions that are very dysfunctional, and this one was functional as anyone I've ever served on. So thank you for just being cool, because we got it done, and I think we should all be proud. So
Thank y'all. Thank y'all.
Yes, ma'am.
Good job, Tina.
Yes, sir. Yes, Travis.
Okay. Tina did a great job. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Good, Tina. You did an excellent job. Thank you for being
Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Y'all made it easy.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Mr. Taylor.
When I first started serving on these boards and commissions back in 2006, it was a learning experience for sure. And working with Tina and Mike over the years has been truly rewarding. And I do appreciate you.
Thank you.
Very much. And thank you, Lisa Capoletta, for always being the voice, because that's what we need in this community. We need people to step up, and speak their piece. And you have certainly done that. So to all of you guys, thank you very much for your service. You are awesome, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Arthur. Feel the same way. All right. Well, that's going to bring us to our final vote on our final report. I hope you all are happy with it. And Miss Moreno, if you wouldn't mind, please call the roll.
Okay, wait, who made the motion and who seconded?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve. I think it's item 4, in submitting the final report to City Council with the additions that were recommended tonight. Does that sound correct?
Okay. Yes, sir.
Yes.
So we have a motion from Mr. Kelsey and a second from Mr. Mayhew. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Okay. Whenever you're ready.
Commissioner Garcia?
Aye, sorry.
Commissioner Kelsey?
Aye.
Commissioner Mayhew?
Aye.
Commissioner Zambrano?
Aye.
Commissioner Sparks?
Aye.
Commissioner Taylor?
Aye.
Chair Tomites?
Aye. Okay. Thank you all for that. And I'm going to move us to our final item, which is question and answer session with press and public. And Lisa Marie, thank you for sticking around in the whole meeting. And if you have a question, please feel free to ask it at this time.
Let's see, I think I unmuted her.
There you go.
There we go.
Thank you, Ms. Moreno. I wanted to applaud y'all. I just had a couple of questions, and I actually wanted to clarify a couple of statements that were made. Questions are from Ms. Garcia. I was actually the one that fought for that, against that roundabout, and as a result, I'm very close friends with a lot of family, and that was actually a coalition among the historic district people and a lot of family. The Hispanic community dropped them like a hot potato. I would like to know, because since I was the organizer, when exactly did you show up to a city council meeting and fight against the roundabout? Because I found those comments shocking, Ms. Garcia. Ms. Garcia, your camera's not on. Did you have an answer? Ms. Garcia, I guess my second question, see, it's real easy when you don't have a camera on to hide behind a black screen. Ms. Garcia, why haven't you shown your face like the rest of your colleagues during the duration of this entire commission, seeing the importance of this commission? Ms. Garcia, I guess my other question is, since you're refusing to answer my questions, which is really easy, apparently you allege that you're a fighter for the Hispanic community and that people are afraid to speak to elected officials. My question is, if you're such a fighter, then why haven't we seen you raise these issues at public hearings? See, the public should know when this recording goes live that Ms. Garcia is refusing to answer these questions, which to me, I think verifies that she was telling falsehoods to this commission. So I guess my final question to Ms. Garcia, who's refusing to answer my questions, is have you deduced how much money this endeavor will cost? And do you feel comfortable for senior citizens on fixed incomes, the raise in property taxes as a result of this boondoggle of single member districts? See, y'all, she's real sassy when it comes to her time, but when it comes to the truth, she's quiet. I appreciate y'all allowing me to answer the questions. Let the record note that Esther Garcia was lying on camera to the public that she was part of that roundabout initiative because she never showed up once. And that was a boondoggle. And by the way, I'm the only one, Ms. Garcia, who has written letters and probably given 50 speeches about the Victory Gardens. This skin is white and I live on Belvin. I haven't seen you show up to Shizzly Dizzly Do. That's all I've got from Ms. Garcia.
Okay, thank you for that. And Ms. Moreno, do we have anyone else
No,
for a
sir.
question and answer? Okay. All right, commissioners, thank you again. We will likely have our presentation to council on the 18th, and but we will definitely let the commissioners know exactly when. And hopefully they'll have us in the beginning of the meeting in the presentations portion. Fingers crossed, and it won't take a whole lot of time. But Ms. Moreno, you had your hand up there.
Yeah, and just to let them know, we will include them in an email on the final report. They'll be able to see that.
Okay, great. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, those minor changes we'll have there. And Mr. Kelsey, you have your hand up?
Yeah, John, so Tina, if you don't mind, just maybe send us an email or a text or something on when it goes to council so we can dial in.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. We will definitely do that.
And John, is it a for sure thing that it'll be May 18th?
It's not for sure yet. I don't know if they've made that agenda, but I think they were waiting to see if we finished, and here we've finished, and
Yeah.
so we've met that goal.
The item is already in the system and it's awaiting the attachment of the report itself. So that's the plan. The placeholder is there. All we have to do is deliver the document to the city clerk.
Great. Well, there you have it, 18th.
All right.
Okay. All right, guys. Good to see you all.
Great job, everyone.
Yeah,
See you
great
tomorrow,
job.
Zach.
Thanks, everybody.
Talk to y'all later.
Let's go get tacos sometime.
Yeah, really. Let's get a drink.
Bye, guys.
Stopping the recording.
Not everyone.
Let's get a tap room burger. That's what.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody gets a taproom gift card.
Let's all go to tap
Now we're
room one of these
talking.
days. We gotta get the band back together.
Yeah.
Count me in.
All right, guys. We'll see you there.
Bye.
Have a good night.
Deal.
Bye.
Bye bye.